So here's the situation. You're walking down the street in a busy urban area when suddenly you're approached by a homeless person asking for some spare change. You then feel sorry for their situation and comply. A few hours later, however, you're walking down the same street and see the same person again. This time, however, they're smoking like a pack of cigarettes. And let's pause here for a second and ask, what would your reaction be in this situation? For many of us, outrage would be the go-to. Homeless and yet wasting money on cigarettes or booze? Maybe he deserves it all. It's what he gets for being lazy. Such a satisfying thought in the moment, is it not? The world isn't unfair. There are no structural problems. People get what they deserve. The failing student who struggles to hand in assignments on time because of a gaming addiction? It's what he gets for being lazy. Millennials and Gen Z becoming increasingly desperate due to skyrocketing rents and house prices? It's what they get for being lazy. It's really great that we have the whole world figured out. In the book Laziness Doesn't Exist, psychologist Devin Prince talks about how when you don't fully understand another person's context, what it feels like to be them every day, all the small annoyances and major traumas that define their life, it's very easy to impose these abstract, rigid expectations of a person's behavior. All homeless people should put down the bottle and get to work. All students should stop gaming and study. Young people should stop complaining and bust their behinds to get on the housing ladder. Which all fine and well, whatever. We've talked about Whoopi before. I don't want to have to open that can of worms again. The big problem, however, at least according to Dr. Prince, is that what we describe as lazy behavior, stuff like not handing your work on time, procrastination, gaming addiction, things like that, is actually the result of contextual influences, factors in our environment that, very importantly, should be approached with curiosity rather than hostility if we hope to improve things. A very telling example is that when it comes to procrastination, research has repeatedly shown that procrastination is more likely, not as you would expect when you don't give a shit about what you're doing, right? When you couldn't care less, but rather it's quite the opposite. Procrastination is more likely when you see the task as meaningful and care about doing very, very well in it. In other words, it's not laziness, it's surprise, surprise, fear of failure, anxiety, and perfectionism. Procrastinators can will themselves to work for hours. They can sit in front of a blank Word document doing nothing else and torture themselves. They can pile on the guilt again and again and again. None of it makes initiating the task, none of it makes, starting work on your assignment any easier. In fact, their desire to get the damn thing done may worsen their stress and make starting the task even harder. As some of you might be aware from watching my previous videos, throughout my life, I've been one of those people constantly struggling with gaming addiction. The world was noisy, and many of the projects that I attempted in my life, despite my best efforts in them, ended up in rejection or failure. Gaming, on the other hand, gaming made me feel safe. There was always this sense of progression, always this sense of achievement that my anxious, perfectionistic brain really craved after any real life rejections. But you see, despite all that, I was never actually happy gaming. I found myself in this very peculiar vicious cycle. Because gaming gave me the feel-good chemicals that were missing from my real life, I started labeling myself as lazy or unmotivated, or worst of all, deserving of failure. So whenever I would attempt something in real life, I would do so from like this mindset of failure that I had created for myself. Of course it's not gonna work out, you degenerate! Lo and behold then, procrastination would ensue, the project would fail, and back to gaming addiction I would go. Whee! Change. Real change, however, only started happening not when I kind of cold turkeyed gaming away, but when I realized that the lazy label that I was using to brand myself was actually the root cause of this entire vicious cycle. As Dr. Prince claims, if anxiety is a major barrier, the procrastinator actually needs to walk away from the book, computer, or Word document and engage in a relaxing activity. Being branded lazy by other people, or by yourself, I would add, is likely to lead to the exact opposite behavior. You see, once I embraced my laziness as kind of part of my productive routine, it's crazy just how fast things started turning around. And because I'm like a sucker for full circles, let's quickly go back to the homeless example from the beginning of the video. In the book Self-Published Kindling, Memoirs of a Homeless Bookstore Owner, Mick Everett talks about how judging a homeless person for wanting to buy like alcohol or cigarettes is actually utter folly on our side. When you're homeless, the nights are cold, the world is unfriendly, and everything is painfully uncomfortable. Whether you're sleeping under a bridge, in a tent, or at a shelter, it's hard to rest easy. You are likely to have injuries or chronic conditions that bother you persistently, and little access to medical care to deal with it. You probably don't even have much healthy food. In that chronically uncomfortable, overstimulated context, needing a drink or some cigarettes makes fucking sense. So maybe, just maybe, we aren't all a work-shy generation. Maybe, just maybe, Mr. Harris should step on a Lego.